Acknowledging St. Louis's newsroom, this is coverage you can count on.
Well, April, there's a brand new book written by a Metro East funeral director, and the name might take you aback. It's called You Can Afford to Die, and the author, Joe Kalmer, joins us this morning. This is a sensitive subject, but it might make some people feel uncomfortable, but it's something that I know you are very passionate about. You and I have done a story about a new funeral home that you opened in the Metro East. So talk about the title of this book, You Can Afford to Die. You're attempting to, break away at the myth that funerals have to cost, in some cases, tens of thousands of dollars, right?
Exactly, Elliot. A friend of mine once said, and actually I've heard it more than once, I can't even afford to die. Well, I maintain that that's really untrue. If the consumer is educated, knows their choices, can think clearly at the time, funerals don't have to cost $10,000 and $12,000. Funerals cost what they do because, quite honestly, the average funeral home has plenty of overhead, and of course, no business is in business to break even, so they have to charge what they do. But if you know what your choices are, what's required by law, what isn't required by law, you can certainly save thousands of dollars.
So if you had to give people some easy, quick tips to kind of start the conversation and start the process so that it doesn't break the bank, either of the loved ones who are pre-planned or the person who is pre-planning or the loved ones left behind to sort of deal with this, what would you say to kind of begin thinking about dying affordably?
Well, I would suggest that you speak with your funeral director and ask him to be very candid and open and honest, and just say, you know, ask, what are my choices? For example, if it's a traditional funeral and you have to purchase a casket, there might be a $6,000 casket on the floor, but you can purchase one almost identical for $2,500.
At the same funeral home?
At the same funeral home. They might not have it available to you that moment, but they can certainly order it and get it within a day or two. You just, and most funeral directors, of course, would make that obvious to the families, but you want to make sure that you know what the choices are.
Well, I guess you know, so many times if you're doing this at the time of need, when someone dies, it's a very emotional time. You don't necessarily have days and days. You might only have an hour or two to do this. So you feel like the pressure's on, right, which is why I'm guessing you would say have the conversation now rather than later.
Right. Have it now rather than later. But if you do have to have it at the time of need, just remember that, you know what, if you have to push things back a day or two so that you can clear your head, it's very important to do that as well.
Is it the case typically that you find that a family will spend more than if someone comes in to pre-need? In other words, the loved one has died, we want to give them a fitting tribute. Where if I come in to pre-plan my own funeral, I might well say, you know what, take the money, you guys enjoy the money, give it to charity. What do you find there? What do people generally want for themselves versus what the family members think they might want?
Well, generally speaking, people want for themselves very little, although family members will come forward and say, well, we're not going to use the quote-unquote pine box.
Right.
However, if they come in ahead of time, to answer your question, they have more time to think about things, and typically, you know, they can take the agreement home with them and sit on it for 30 days and come back and get all their money back or change their mind. Nothing's set in stone. You can change your mind at any time prior to death. If you come in at the time of need, of course, some of your decisions may be hasty and consequently maybe not as thought through.
So start the process now. And Joe, real quick, where can people buy the book?
Amazon.com, Barnes & Noble, on my website, youcanaffordtodie.com, and of course my business website as well.
Okay, Joe's a very, very thoughtful guy in a industry that sometimes gets a bad rap. So good to have you here, Joe Kalmer from Kalmer Memorial Services. Thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. April?